Hey everybody, just setting everything up. Hi guys, how is everyone? Happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday. Hope everyone is doing good. I am doing great. If you joined us for the workshop yesterday, I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you got something from it. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper today. The topic yesterday was really good, just talking about spirit and intuition, our third eye. We're in the third eye chakra. So we're in the sixth chakra. We have one more chakra to go, and we're going to do that one in November. But I really love this sixth chakra because it really goes into really getting into trusting ourselves and trusting our intuition and how that shows up in our life and just being more in touch with our spiritual side. So I wanted to talk a little bit more tonight about being in touch with our spiritual side and spirit versus ego. So I found this article while I was just doing research on the on the third eye chakra, which is the sixth chakra, and I came across this article by Mary Allen. She's a inner peace coach, and it was just such a good article. So much good information about spirit versus ego and how we are constantly are those two energies that are in us are constantly like almost battling to be in the forefront. So I really just wanted to talk about how just teaching today from her actual article because it was such a good article. And after I'm finished, I'll make sure to post the link in the community. I posted it on YouTube. So if anyone on YouTube wants to go to it, they can also. But I'm going to post the link and I'm also going to post part of the article because this list that I'm going to go over is going to be really, really good in us just being able to compare the spirit and the ego. So just, I know we're always, ego comes up a lot in the healing journey. It just does, and it just is because it's such a big part of why we need to heal. Because our ego takes over, our ego wants to protect us, but it's really not protecting us. It's kind of blocking us from doing the things that we need to do. But it seems to be, you know, wanting to protect us from fear and hurt and different things like that. But those are the types of things that we have to experience to be able to, be on this journey and do the things that we have to do to turn into the people that we really want to be and that we're supposed to be while we're here, during our time on this earth is, we have a journey, we have a purpose, we have things that we have to go through. And ego seems like it's protecting us, but it is really blocking us from things that we have to go through. And of course, our spirit is the part of us that just wants to be free, that just wants to enjoy life, that wants to have peace, that wants to have good relationships and, show up as your best self. And the ego sneaks in. So let's talk a little bit about what Mary Allen talked about in this article that I thought was really good. And she's just showing how there's two opposing energies inside of all of us, and they're constantly pulling us in opposite directions. Ego wants to go here, spirit wants to go here. So it's trying to have control over that ego because our life goes so much easier when we can push that ego to the background and not let it show its face so much in our life. Our life just goes more peaceful, easier. I know in my life, just even today, I was listening to a great audiobook, The Spirit Junkie by Gabrielle Bernstein. And she had a big part in there talking about her ego and just how it like completely ruined her 20s for her. And I was just like, that's so true. And mine is still showing up. And don't think that it won't. Even once you start dealing with your ego and you're learning to deal with your shadow self and you're learning to let your spirit show up more and be more present and conscious of who is showing up, it's still gonna, try to rear its little ugly head in your life whenever it possibly can. So the thing is that we want to be as conscious as possible and be living in the present moment so that we're aware that it's showing up in our life and we're not just letting it take over and do what it wants to do because it will definitely do that. I know for me in my relationship with my husband, I have to constantly be in check with my ego because it's always showing up and get me in trouble. It's always showing up and making me just, I get easily annoyed and judgmental, and it's so easy to be like that in a relationship with someone, especially a romantic relationship that you're in, or partnership with someone, because you're together all the time. You're doing so many things together. You're trying to grow together. You're trying to, if you haven't dealt with this type of stuff before you got married, which I didn't, because I really didn't know. I mean, a little marital counseling, but nothing serious. So you really don't know that you have all these issues, your own issues going on. Your partner has all their issues going on. You're trying to come together, and both of your egos are just clashing because you're judging. Someone's always has wants to have the last word or the last say, or wants to be in charge of this or that. And it's really, we have to allow our spirits to come in and be able to diffuse the whole situation where it's not, it doesn't have to be someone has to win. The ego wants to win. And you have to get control of that, where you don't have to win in situations like that. It's better for us to come in more with our love and our hearts than coming in with our logic and our minds, because that's when the battle continues and it doesn't stop. So I am going to grab my water, and then we can talk about this article. And if anybody has questions or comments while we're doing this, please chime in. Let me make sure, because I'm just going to put hi because this and the okay. So now, if anybody has questions or anything like that, I'm going to. Oh, hey, mom, you're on YouTube. Okay, so spirit versus ego. I just wanted to read really quickly what she wrote about the spirit and how it shows up in our life. So simply, spirit is showing up in our life as love. It is endlessly curious about exploring and experiencing the world. This energy force is alive and it's free. It's creative, expressive, abundant, and playful. So that doesn't that sound nice? Spirit is just all of those great things that we want to be. This part of ourselves guides us calmly and adeptly through new and challenging experiences. So we're not all over the place. We're not letting our anger rise up. When spirit is guiding us, we are calm. Um, its guidance doesn't come from the head's thinking. It is much more powerful, wise, clear, and knowing than the mind. So we talked about that yesterday in the workshop. It not being in our mind. So it's not our logic. It's not our reason. When spirit is guiding us, it's our love. It's coming from our heart. It's calm. It's peaceful. Intuition. I'm sorry. It is much more powerful, wise, clear, and knowing than this energy. When we access it, we feel warmth, serenity, centered, connected to the world. Life flows easily, which that's what we want. We want life to flow easily. We don't want it to be chaos, and we don't want it to be always have to be a tussle and a fight and someone trying to win. We want life to flow. We've all fulfilled, we feel fulfilled, fully self-expressed, and every moment is a magic moment. When we live from this space, we know all is well and life is a joy. So when we're living from our spirit, we know all is well. Life is a joy. Things feel good. We're living in the present moment when we're living in spirit. So we're not concerned about the future. We're not worried about the future. And we're not constantly reliving in the past. So we're not reliving incidents in our life that we don't want to reoccur. Because if we're reliving them in our mind, eventually they're going to reoccur in some fashion or form. So we're not reliving in the past, and we're not worried about the future when we are in spirit, okay? And this energy force is called spirit or soul, and it is always there for us to access. So spirit is always there. We talked a lot about that yesterday in the workshop about the third eye. So if you didn't get to come to that, I'll make sure to post it up in the community this week, the replay. But it was really good talking about it, because it was just really knowing that you have to get in touch with that inside spirit. That's where all the work's going to be done. That's where all your answers are going to come from. When you're seeking advice, when you're seeking answers to all your questions that you have about life and taking the right direction in your life, that's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from spirit. So really being in tune with that and being in touch with your intuition is what we talked a lot about yesterday, because that's what the third eye is. It's wisdom. It's one of the first spiritual chakras, and it's wisdom. No, it's the second spiritual chakra. I'm sorry. And it's all about your wisdom, your intuition, and your spirit. So it's really getting in touch and in tune with that. So then your intuition and your spirit shows up for you when you need it. You get more in touch with your intuition, and the more you listen to it and the more you're aware of it, the louder it gets and the better it can direct you. Okay. And then the other energy force is more practical. We're talking about the ego now. So see how these words are going to completely change when we talk about the ego. The other energy force is more practical, cautious, judgmental, and protective. This force wants to look good for others, or at the very least, avoid looking bad. It likes to control, although pretends that it's not. Oh, it loves to control everything you do. It views the world as a potentially harmful place, fears being hurt and exposed, thus remains separate, isolated, and closed from others. That's your ego showing up. You don't want to deal with people, when you want to just be isolated to yourself because you can't control usually the feelings that you're having, the judgmental feelings that you're having, that maybe the anger that you're having, wanting to be right. Those are all things that are coming from the ego. It views the world as a potentially harmful place, fears being hurt and exposed, thus remains separate, isolated, and closed from others. It blames, criticizes, compares, and makes excuses. Um, should is one of its favorite words. So always, always, and what is should? Should is going back into the past. I should have did this, I should have did that. So that's what ego does. Ego beats us up. Ego can always wants to take us back to what we should have done, or we could have did that better, all those different things. So should is going to be that word that shows up a lot. Loves to blame, loves to criticize, whether it's criticizing ourselves, whether it's criticizing other people, are usually definitely blaming. When you're blaming someone, check yourself. Stop and check yourself. I have to do that so much because I know if I'm blaming someone else and I'm putting the blame on someone else, I know that's when it's time to really check to see, is this my ego showing up? Is this a truth? Is this a story that my ego's making up about me blaming someone else for something that's really probably going on within me and about me? Or is this something that I really need to deal with? So making sure to do that. Make sure that you check yourself if you're going through the whole blame game, you're criticizing, and if you're comparing yourself to others, that's the ego showing. I'm not good enough. They're better than me. Oh, they can do this better than me. Maybe I don't want to do this because they're already doing it, or this is already out, so maybe I don't need to try and bring out my business or my creation or whatever it is because someone else is always doing it, because someone else is already doing it. So comparison, if the ego is showing up, the ego will definitely show up when we're comparing ourselves to others, and makes excuses. If we're making excuses about what we're not doing or what we could have did or why something's not showing up in our life, that's ego showing up. So when we are doing those different types of things, know that that's what's showing up is ego, and you need to stop, really think about what's going on, why you're making the excuses, why you're making the comparisons, and that it's not really what is truth. To really get down to what really is going on, you have to get to the answer. So you have to do, really think about what's going on and dig deep and go to the root of what the issue really is. And don't get into the whole excuses, comparisons, judgment, and all that different stuff. And if you do, stop, make sure that you self-evaluate what's going on and then move on from there, and maybe journal about it, what you could have done better, how the situation could have been different, what you'll do the next time so you don't show up with your ego, in the forefront. And then let's see, this energy looks for answers from its mind. So looking for the logic, looking for things from here. the education, the logic, not from here, the heart, the spirit, the truth. Um, Although often confuses reality from something made up. So definitely, I said, is this a story you're telling, or is it something that's really real that's showing up in your life? Is it something that you're just telling yourself, or is it something that's really a reality? And usually with the ego, it's going to be something that we blow up into something that's really nothing, but we'll make it into a whole situation. It can be something really small and minute, but we'll make it into a big old thing. That's what the ego does. um, Living isolated within the confines of the body, it mostly just wants to be safe and independent. Ooh, that is me. Maybe not the whole safe thing, because I love to take risks and chances and do all that different type of stuff, but definitely independent. I don't need nobody. I can do this myself. I got this. I have had to learn over the years to come out of that, because it was just the way that I grew up, feeling like I needed to be able to take care of myself and I didn't need anyone else, and I needed to be able to depend on me. And yes, so we do need to be able to not feel so much like we can't depend on other people. We can't, or that we can't depend upon ourselves, our intuition, our inner guide, and others that want to actually help us, because there are people out there who want to help us. So we want to make sure that we're not feeling so independent and letting our ego show up, that we're blocking help from other people and blocking help from within ourselves because we don't believe that we have the answers. And they call this energy force ego, of course, and it too is always there for us to access. So both of these different things are always there for us to access and to go to. And it's just about which one are we going to deal with? Which one are we trying to choose? And hopefully everyone is trying to choose the spirit and be more in touch with self, the higher self, and try and work on not letting the ego rear its ugly head and come to the forefront. So we want to make sure that we strive to really work on that, and we really notice and we're aware of when it shows up in our life and know how to deal with it. So some of the things we're going to talk about, there's 7 different ways of cultivating connection with your spirit, and we'll talk about it. So how to get in access and get in touch more with your spiritual side and not be so much in contact with your ego. And I love this list. She wrote this really list, and it's all about how the ego has many faces, and she's going to show you all the different faces of the ego. And then on the other side, it's going to be different sides of the spirit, or how the spirit shows up for that side of the ego. So this is just a super good list if you're not really familiar with how the ego might be showing up. So the ego might be showing up as separation, as your mind. You're thinking more with your mind versus your heart. So your heart would be your spirit, mind would be your ego. Separation would be your ego, and connection would be your spirit. Victim definitely would be the ego, and for the spirit, it would be taking responsibility. So we love to show up as the victim. This happened to me. Why did this happen to me? So making sure that if we're doing that, check yourself and then see if we're not taking responsibility for something. If it's something that's really going on that we need to be taking responsibility for. We could be putting off our feelings on someone else, and we're making ourselves the victim. They're not even doing anything to us, but we're making ourselves the victim because we feel like something's happening to us, but it's just all in our minds. Because remember, ego is the mind. So we're making up all this stuff in our head about what's happening to us, being the victim. Okay. So this is a nice long list. Excuses versus results, shoulds versus inspiration, resistance versus acceptance. So I'm going to post this up in the community so you can see it. And it just helped me out a lot of just knowing that there's all these different words that we could be using for the ego versus what the spirit is and what we really should be doing. And it's just a good way to kind of check ourselves and keep ourselves aware of how we're showing up in the world. What are we really, how are we really showing up, and how are we really dealing with the ego? So this is a great list that I'm going to post up for everyone to see. And then we're going to go over quickly, if anyone doesn't have any questions, we're going to go over cultivating connection with spirit. So how can we access spirit so that it naturally becomes the dominant energy force in our lives? How can we maximize the peace, the joy, and flow in our lives? So she's going to give us 7 key ways to do that. And I just thought these were really good to go over really quick. And then if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely chime in. But these are 7 ways to find more peace, more joy, and more flow in our life. And who doesn't want that? That's why we're in this community. That's why we do this on Monday nights. So we can find more ways to bring the peace in our lives, to bring the joy in our lives, and just for things to flow easier for us. Why have confusion in your life when you can have peace, So these are some ways that we can make sure that if ego is showing up, we can get more into our spiritual side. And one of the ways to do that is to be more present. We talk about that all the time in here. And like I said, the more I go over these things, repetition, that's the better we can learn it. I know for me, watching different or listening to different podcasts, or reading different books, and all the same things, kind of when I'm reading like spiritual books or books about the ego or, anything like that, metaphysics or anything like that, manifesting. It eventually all the books kind of start sounding the same, but by the time I get to the 5th book or whatever, 20th book, I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm getting it. Because if it's something new for me, repetition helps me to remember it more. So you'll find in here, as you grow, as you learn more, it'll come easier to you and it'll start showing up in your life, and you'll start having really good aha moments, and you'll be like, oh, that's what it really means to be present or aware, or because it'll start, making sense to you more. So being more present, when we are truly present, we have great access to our spirit. So that's when we really recognize it, and we're just, in a present moment in our life. We could just be, in our house, just relaxing, but we're really present. We're not thinking about anything. Basically, we're not in the past, we're not in the future, we're not worried. We're just in the present moment and enjoying what is, because that's all that there is right now. There's nothing but right now. The future and the past only exist in our mind. That's why the ego is mind, because the ego wants to keep us in the future and in the past instead of in the present moment where we find peace. And think about it. If you've had a chaotic day and it's been busy, or you've just had a lot going on, you can't wait to get home. So what is it you want to do when you get home? You want to have peace. Because when you get home, hopefully you can relax. You can be in the present moment with yourself or with your family. You can peacefully have dinner. You can unwind. All those things, So when we think about that, we think, we want to just unwind for the day. We think about peace and joy and being in the present moment. We might not even think like, oh, I want to go be in the present moment, but that's what we're doing, because we don't want to think about work anymore. We don't want to think about what happened at work, and we don't want to worry about what's going to happen at work the next day. We just want to be in the present moment and relax and have a nice time just being, peaceful with ourselves or with our family. So being present is one of the ways that we can have a better connection with our spirit. 2 is choose high vibrations. So consciously choosing high vibration states such as peace, joy, love, appreciation, generosity, and other good feelings. We always want to be in those good feeling states as much as possible, because that's the energy that we're sending out there when we're in those states. So then that's the energy we'll be receiving back. So as much as possible, we want to make sure that we are in good high vibrations. And, you can do that by, if you're not feeling like you can center yourself. You can do a quick meditation. You can turn on some really good music that you like, that, brings up your vibes. You can dance, you can exercise, you can do yoga. There's so many good things that you could do that can change your mood at that time that you're not feeling like you're having good vibrations. If you're feeling like you're in low vibrations, there's so many different things that you could do to help change your mood. Even if it's just popping in a podcast, to remind you that being in the present moment is what's going to help you to be closer to spirit. I know for me, a lot of the time, that's what I have to do. Like if I'm driving or if I'm at home and I'm working or I'm cleaning or I'm working with the children or doing whatever I need to do, and I'm feeling kind of like, oh, today wasn't a good day. I'm not really feeling like myself. Pop in a podcast. Let me listen to something. Let me get my mind off of what's going on, and so I can get back into the present moment, and I can get out of these low vibrations. So that's always a good way to do it. So choosing to be in good spirits. Number 2 and number 3 is take responsibility through conscious choices. Our ego likes to play victim and lead you to believe that you're not powerful or at choice in the matter. And all that's a bunch of drama. We are in charge. Ego, you are not in charge, okay? We are in charge. So we have to make sure that we're making conscious choices, that we're really conscious when we're making different choices that we have to in our life, and that we're not picking the drama, that we're really taking the time to make sure that the choices we make are going to benefit us, and that it's going to be and knowing that we're the ones that we have all the power. We choose. We don't have to be a victim in our lives. We don't have to be. We have the choice, and we are in charge of our lives. We are what happens to us. We're not victims. We are in charge of that. So we make the choice of, either drama showing up or us living in joy, peace, and happiness. So making sure that we're making conscious decisions, that we're aware of the decisions that we're making. Radically reduce thought. And for most people, that's going to be super hard, because I know for me, that can be hard, except for when I'm in meditation. And even then, I have to get to that state, starting off, what is it, beta, then you get to alpha, then you finally get to theta, where you are really in like a meditative state and you're not having a bunch of thoughts going on. But it takes practice and it takes time to eventually get to that. But just working on, if you are having a bunch of that are repetitive and that are low vibes and negative, that you catch yourself and that you try and change your thoughts immediately. That thought isn't true. If you're worrying about something from the past, and if you think about something in the future, stop it. This isn't true. This isn't what's really going on. I'm in the present moment, and this is what's happening in the present moment right now. So just trying to reduce those thoughts, and that's just something we have to practice over time. When you're on this journey, that's why it's a lifestyle. I mean, it's a lifetime journey. This isn't something that you do for a few months, healing and learning to be conscious and be in contact with your spirit more. This isn't something that you do for a few months, a year, 2, 3 years. It's really something that you're going to be practicing over your lifetime. So don't feel like you have to have this all figured out in a few weeks, and that you're supposed to be this brand new person. It's going to take time to get there. I'm still working on myself, and I've been doing this for some years. And I'm a coach, and I'm a guide, and all that stuff. But I'm still a student. First and foremost, is that I'm always learning too, and I'm always working on myself consistently. So that's the thing, is just being consistent about it. So just being present and conscious of your thoughts, and trying not to have a bunch of thoughts going on that aren't good. Thoughts that are just, repeats of the past, or worrying about the future. And then 5 is humility. Ego is about being right, definitely. Criticizing, judging, and making others wrong. So really think about that, having humility. And that's hard for some people. I know it was hard for me sometimes. Even now, like when someone calls you out on your stuff, and being able to just accept that, like, yeah, I'm wrong. I'm not right. But when you do it, it feels good to be able to say, yeah, you're right. I'm not, after you get over that initial, you know, feeling of being criticized, or, someone saying that you're wrong. Once you get over that, and then you're able to actually admit to that, that feels good. Then to be like trying to prove your point and knowing that you're wrong, but not wanting to admit to that. So that's growth when you can do that. That's when you know that you're changing and you're growing. When you don't always have to be right, you don't have to criticize, and you don't have to be judgmental of someone all the time. So that's when you know you're growing. When you can let it go. Just let it go. It's not that serious, I promise you. And that's something I had to grow into and that I'm still growing into. But when you're able to do it, it feels good because you know that you're changing and that you're growing. So humility is really, really big. Being able to humble yourself and not have to have the last word or not having to be right. And then number 6 is listen to spirit. And simply put, the ego's voice is almost always associated with feelings of angst, resistance, doubt, fear, questioning, guilt, and confusion. Remember, spirit's voice is going to be clear, wise, knowing, precise, and brings peace more often serve and brings peace and more often serves you for the greater good. So that's going to be the difference. So when we're listening to spirit, we know how spirit's going to show up. It's going to be clear. It's going to be wise. It's not going to be telling us some foolishness. It's going to be giving us some wisdom to follow. It's going to be a knowing. You're going to know that what spirit is giving you is right because it feels right. It feels good. It's going to be precise. There's not going to be any back and forth, confusion, or maybe, maybe not. No, it's going to be precise. And it brings peace. And it's going to be for the greater good. So it's not just going to be for the good of you, but it's going to be for the greater good of all. Okay? So that's how spirit is going to be. So listen to spirit. That's what we talked about with listening to our intuition. That's spirit, that's God, that's our higher self. Being able to listen to that and know and get in tune with that. Because it's not going to steer you wrong when you listen. So it's going to be you knowing and understanding and being aware when spirit is trying to speak to you. So the more you do it, the louder it gets, the clearer it gets. The more you don't listen, the quieter it gets, and then you're out here on your own and you're trying to figure it out. And then 7 is commit to the process to cultivate a deeper relationship to spirit and radically reduce the control. Life gets in the way. You'll notice yourself getting stuck, being fearful, resisting life, and blaming others. But as you deepen into your commitment to the process, you will find you're able to recognize the destructive and unconscious patterns in your life more quickly and make responsible, conscious choices to take empowering action. So commit to the process. And by committing to the process, everybody that shows up in here on Monday nights is committing to the process, committing to the work, committing to learning and how to show up as a better person, as your best self. Sorry, guys, I had to take a little sip. But that's the important part, being consistent, being committed. Like tonight, you guys, I was so tired. I was like, maybe I'll do this live tomorrow on Tuesday. No, you're not. Because you said that you were coming in here on Monday nights. And guess what? You're going to do this tonight because you're going to be consistent and you're going to be committed to this. And I'm so glad I did because I had a great time tonight. Does anyone have any questions or comments? I thought this was a great article. Did anyone else think this was a great article tonight? Someone let me know if you can. Let me see. Oh, let me see. Oh, hey, Sonia. Hey, Brother Nick. And hey, Nisi. So, yes, so that's how we're showing up for ourselves, guys, with this ego and with this spirit. We're going to show up more, let our spirit shine through, and we're going to get that ego out of here. So those are 7 ways to do it. I'm going to post this article, so if you at it and read the full thing yourself, you can. And then I'm also going to post that list of ego versus spirit, which is really good. So then you'll kind of know what words describe and what words come back on the spirit side. So thank you guys for tonight. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to hop off of here, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Same time, because I'm staying committed and I'm being consistent. So next Monday, same time, 7 o'clock to 7:30. And we will have another workshop because we had this one so early. So I know we have the whole month. So we will have another one. And I think I talked about it yesterday, and now it slips my mind about what I wanted to have a workshop